And I'll come back and get the stuff after my chamber meeting.
Okay.
Okay.
Thanks.
All right. Bye. Have fun.
Have fun. Is this everything? Oh, that's Jan. How's everybody doing? How's our energy here? We all excited to be here?
This is only my third meeting this week, so I'm doing okay.
Okay,
Yeah, I got a few more left in me.
all right. Well, hang in there.
Yeah.
The ends in sight.
Yeah. No worries, I'm good.
Yeah, all right. Hello, how you doing?
This is actually the meeting I feel as though we can accomplish the most for our community with, in the shortest amount of time, quite frankly, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, I think so.
Just continuing to unleash the potential of our parks and our spaces and, right, so it's a big part of the community. Right, having these spaces and having the facilities and, you know, having access to this stuff.
And there's a lot of low hanging fruit too, which makes it easy to get wins.
There you go.
Yeah.
It's low hanging fruit that excites me the most, right?
Yeah. Getting the ball rolling too. Momentum's a good thing.
Yep,
So,
yep. In case you guys haven't seen, we're having a get together Friday night at Flyers to kick off the official fundraising for the windmill project. So, you know, about Friday night, swing on by. 5 o'clock is when it starts.
Okay.
Yeah, so we'll be there for a few hours, and then Flyers is creating a special brew that they'll donate all of some of the
Oh, cool.
proceeds
Oh,
from
that's great.
each glass purchased year moving forward to the
Nice.
windmill project. So
That's great.
we got some windmill ale, I think, or
Okay.
something.
And that is to rebuild the windmill at Windjammer?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
Is it gonna be sort of in the same location or do we know yet?
Yeah, no, we've proposed and been working with Parks on a location closer to where the farmer's market currently takes place.
Oh, okay.
There's already existing power service
Yeah.
there. There's it's a location that gets us out of the shoreline management,
Yeah.
puts us in a spot where we don't have any utilities in the way that have to be relocated.
Yeah.
And it should make it very visible from Pioneer Way with the current configuration, looking through Oak Harbor Motors,
Yeah.
their parking lot area, right?
Yeah.
It gives a straight shot to that, and you'll probably be able to see it from the highway.
Nice.
Is the thought.
Yeah.
And yeah, so that's, and it puts it near that pathway that's currently existing there. So, you know, we don't have a lot of pathway to build to make it ADA accessible.
Yeah. Is it gonna be the same footprint and everything? Is that the?
No,
that's bigger?
so we've taken the original plans, and those original plans are now, we've widened the base.
Okay.
But we have the original plans that came from Holland.
Yeah,
We took those, we widened the base so that we could put a bathroom inside the unit.
okay,
Makes it more of a desirable rental
sure.
is the thought process behind it for events and
Okay.
and such, which that rental income can help offset future maintenance, so it's
Sure.
not so it becomes a neutral. And, you know, we're gonna have a brick courtyard around it with, you know, the names in the bricks, you know, this is part of the fundraising process.
Oh, okay. So you can get your name in a break.
Yeah, yeah,
That's fun.
yeah.
It's a good
yeah.
idea.
Yeah, so, so it'll be a little larger at the base, it'll be the
Yeah.
same physical shape other than that, we just enlarged each of the octagonal sections. a
Okay,
little bit To make that room, and then our intentions is to that second floor to become a little more, you know, possibly usable.
Okay.
Than it was, again,
Yeah.
event space type of deal, actually being able to go out and use the outside deck.
Oh, okay.
We imagine, you know, corporate event, for example, on 4th of July, great
I
rental.
remember it being that large,
Yeah, well, again, that's why we're kind of bringing the base out a little bit.
like how much out?
Like So
20
each,
feet?
each of the octagons have been increased in size by about 6 feet. So it ends up, being a little bit more of a usable space downstairs, right? A little more practical.
Well, you've been here long enough that, you know, I mean, to remember when they used to do sports stuff out of there, right? That's when you'd go get your gear for youth
Go get
sports
your
out of
gear.
there, and then the lifeguard program
Absolutely.
operated out of there.
Absolutely,
So,
we even had a snack shack
Yeah,
that operated out of it.
sell snacks for people at the
For a
lagoon.
while.
Yeah, I remember.
It served many purposes over the years, so.
Maybe get that back.
Yeah, it'll be great to have it back. It'll be a good old community windmill raising, you know, we've got a lot of businesses in town and folks that are really smart, volunteering their time. I mean, Ryan Wallen from P&L has taken the lead, and obviously
Yeah.
their company, you know, builds stuff much bigger than this all the time. And so it's nice to see everybody just stepping up, and, you know, we're not having any shortage of people raising their hand, that's for sure. So
That's good. That's great. And then will they get to redo the one out at Holland Gardens? That thing's in rough shape.
yeah, well, that's a Brian thing. I think I'm gonna leave that one to Brian.
My daughter has soccer practice there like twice a week, and so I sit there and watch her, you know, her little 6-year-old team run around, and I stare at that windmill, and just every time I feel like it breaks down, like in between every practice, like something else is falling off of it. I just look at it, I'm like, oh no, don't fall over.
Yeah, well,
It's
that's
rough.
why we're here. We have 1,001 priorities. And we need to
Oh no, I try not to look too much.
prioritize how we're going to tackle some of these, right? Okay, is Jimmy?
Yeah.
Oh, there.
I snuck in behind you.
You snuck in. All right. You want to head this out?
Yeah, can we, I guess, do you have everything already added to the spreadsheet from the last time we met?
Yeah, I was just pulling that up here. And also wanted to go over with you guys what projects are in the budget, whether they're, most of them are like not funded, but this is kind of our implementation document for the city, right? So it's important that you guys understand what we have out of here.
Sounds good.
Not cooperating, so I'm gonna go VOTEC. Okay, so I'll give kind of a update where we are with everything.
You ready for the end of soccer?
Not really, because my son made one of the select teams, so it just gets even
Oh,
more
it goes
intense.
on forever.
Yep.
I know.
And now you get to travel.
Hmm.
Your weekends will be tied up.
Yes, well, they pretty much already are. I just won't be out at Fort Nugent now.
Yeah. All right, well, yeah. Every year, about the halfway mark, or every season, I think to myself, I'm never doing this again. And then it starts up the next
Mhm.
season. Yeah.
I'd be lying if I said I don't sometimes get that same feeling.
Oh, but just beam yourself 15 years in the future and go talk to those kids
Yeah.
and ask them what impact it had on their life, and then beam yourself back here.
I think what I need
You'll
to
be
do
good
is
to
just
go.
get a therapist on retainer for soccer season. That's what needs to happen, just for those 8 weeks, spring and fall. I'm just gonna be there.
I think the club needs to get one, and then we can just be like, parents, you're open to use this as well.
Right.
Okay, so here's what was in the 2023-2024 budget, and just kind of where we're at with some of these projects. Portland Loos in the park, so that has all been completed. That is done. Pickleball courts, 50,000 out of REAP funding. Council agreed with you guys on redirecting that and looking at opportunities at Fort Nugent Park. So we had a $200,000 grant for RCED grant funding that was in with 3 other projects, 2.3 million at the marina for dredging and improvements of buildings there, and then the redoing of the parking lot at the senior center. The senior center and the pickleball courts were dismissed, so we're presenting it on the marina next week. But there went our $200,000 for the project. So I met with Brian Hunt with the school district. They have no interest in doing anything with the courts or anything with Rotary Park. We said, hey, there's a couple different options here. If you guys want to take on pickleball court renovation there, maybe we can work something where we kick in that 50,000, or we'll continue to go after some additional funding sources to build in other locations. And we have a couple different options for doing that. We have 368,000 or so for sports fields for Harbor Heights. Harbor Heights is on hold right now. But that's money that we can use for improvement of sports fields. I don't know if that directly applies to sports courts though. We have a lot of needs with sports fields, and in the conversations with Brian Hunt, although they really have no interest in pickleball courts, said no, we're good with doing away with that MOU and give you guys our blessings to go build courts wherever you're able to. He did say that we had a discussion around the future of their levies. Probably in spring of 2025, they'll go after another levy for placement or taking down the Oak Harbor Elementary and building at Fort Nugent. So he is right now making improvements at Memorial Stadium.
Memorial.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And so we might kick some funding towards helping with that. They actually don't need it. They've already sectioned off some funding for that. We'll be able to program that field starting early next year.
Okay.
Should be ready to go. And it's a lit sports field. So a lot of good opportunities there. So pickleball courts right now, we've looked at a couple different locations. I think eventually we will need multiple locations, but Fort Nugent at the northwestern end, where we'll probably have to put in a new entry into the park anyway, since
Northeastern.
Northeastern,
that, like,
yes.
Yeah.
Fort Nugent Road, thank you. We'll probably have to put an entry in there anyway. There is plenty of flat footprint there to put in some courts there. So I'm meeting with Skygate Community College and their facilities guy and their foundation guy. Is escaping me right now. Yes, thank you. Who built they have a covered, beautiful courts. Anyway, a little bit about their process. They had a very large donor. I think that ended up being like a $1.7 million project. We don't need to the scale of that, but there's a lot of lessons we can learn on that, especially with pricing and contractors and site prep. So if we're going to do pickleball courts, I'd rather do it right and in a way that will help give support for additional court placement around the community. All right, Smith Park native plant renovation. So that's been tweaked a little bit. We're going to make a community garden that the garden club will oversee and be planting in the southwestern section of the park. It's a difficult area for us to mow anyway. And we'll be building a nice planter bed area there. There's a stone that we'll be putting a plaque on there commemorating the centennial of the garden club. And then we'll make improvements to that pathway, make it ADA accessible through the park. I just had a volunteer group, was out with them last night after the council meeting, that repainted the pavilion out there. So it's nice and shiny looking now. But we will put in some new conduits for electrical to the pavilion, put in some nice, fairy lights and stuff like that.
Mhm.
And then take out that pole and then erect those two stone pillars there and put a new park identifier sign on the west side of the park there. That kind of goes hand in hand with Smith Park playground renovation. We had $50,000, I believe, out of funding. That we're not going to replace the playground equipment. We're going to take it out and just make that a nice picnic park, a nice special event park. Just a nice beautified garden area. I like the idea of a historical feel to it. So we might put in some wrought iron features and just kind of give it that sort of old timey feel, but have it look very nice and actually upkept.
Are there
Less
any
tired
plans
than
for that
it is right
fence too, the wooden fence that's down along the southwestern
Yeah, so
and
there's a,
south side of the park?
well, there's a fence on the north side,
Yeah,
a
there's
little
chain
bit
link
on the
north
west
right?
side. It's a wood,
Oh, is it wood?
yeah. North side, a little bit on the northwest side, and then on the south side.
Yeah.
So we're going to repaint all that.
Okay.
We have all the paint for it. We did the pavilion last night, and then we'll do the
Okay.
fence next. Yeah, so that's all funded and in process. Then we have Harbor Heights Sports Complex is on hold. The difficult thing with Harbor Heights and also with a couple of these other projects is the funding is chunked. So it's not all in one portion.
Harbor Heights is a terrible place to put sports fields.
Right. Yeah. I mean, if you actually walk the site, you're like, what does this site really want to be?
It
And
doesn't want to be a
Yeah.
sports field.
flattened sports fields is difficult. We probably could put 2 sports fields at the lower end where the drainage is,
Yeah.
but that's right adjacent to this neighborhood. It's not, the streets aren't really built for in and out park access. So we need to do some thoughts of some.
Well, yeah, it's,
around
it's a
that, right?
park that's not located in our neighborhoods, right? So it's gonna be a destination park of some sort. You don't need to drive there, right? And it's gonna, be something that can attract from further away if it's a specialty park, but that's, it's not the park where the neighborhood kids are gonna go play.
Right.
So,
We have 367,000 from REITs and park impact fees, and 12,000 from general fund right now. So we can redirect that, I think, for the betterment of sports fields, certainly appropriate. Or if we want to do any planning around that property, if we want to put in something in the interim while we're doing planning, trails are the easiest. There's probably opportunity for things like nature trails or biking trails. Disc golf would be an appropriate activity there. Anything that you can keep it a kind of naturalized area. We actually don't, there's a lot of great nature hikes near Oak Harbor, but not really in Oak Harbor, right? Smith Park is probably our most naturalized park where you can actually just go and feel like you're, just kind of in nature. So I think it is worth considering some projects that improve and protect kind of naturalized parklands and naturalized park spaces where people can hike or walk around and just feel like they're out of the city, right? And I think there's some good opportunities there. It's a large parcel, large piece of property. We can do multiple things there, right? It doesn't have to all be sports field or all be nature trails. I think we could take a segmented approach and still have plenty of separation for individual activities.
So we're not avoiding that for sports fields. We're not avoiding that side as potential for sports fields.
No, there's no official aborting of the conceptual plans, but right now those conceptual plans are cost prohibitive. I mean, it would be close to $60 million project to do the entire thing as sports fields with the access road. The access road alone, $9 to $11 million.
So we need to be looking at another location for sports fields.
Yeah.
And that, hence my conversation with Brian Hunt and Memorial Park. So that field will be able to accommodate the current use at Fort Nugent. So in the conversations with him, the school district is going to take an 11-acre piece of that west side park, that north end, for fenced-in school and fields. The remaining 2/3 of that field will remain open for public program. So the memorial field nicely replaces that lost field space. That doesn't give us additional inventory, but it maintains our.
Well, and there's, discussion too that's been going on. I mean, this discussion, of course, started back before the levy, right? As to, how can we, solve this, right, and have the school district come out looking, like they didn't take away our fields, right? That's just the binoculars of that, right? But there's been discussion about the bus barn getting relocated out here to the old landfill, right? And part of that discussion is around, again, maybe creating additional park usage space or park type space in the center of our city, right? And then, of course, with the tearing down of Old Carver Elementary, the intent, of course, is to build out a Coronation Park, and there may be some additional space there. So, I think these discussions that Brian's having with the school district are huge, right? And we're hoping, at least I'm hoping, that it leads to more of the 75-acre purchase of the hillside. That was a no-brainer in the fact that probably the last opportunity we're ever going to have of purchasing 75 acres in our city, right? And preserving it for something, whether it be a, nature park has always been my kind of thing, biking trails. I think we need to do something with it, because otherwise, unfortunately, it will be overtaken by the homeless, right? I mean, having activity out there and having people out there is what's going to help preserve it. Actually creating the usage is going to help preserve it. So.
Yeah, the best way to mitigate homeless issues is to activate a space. So have that kind of in your mind of both opportunity with maybe redirecting some funding, and also we have a good parcel of land. What's best and highest use there?
Are the bathrooms up to snuff at Memorial? Because
No.
those have always been a tremendous issue for as long as I've been alive.
The last time I talked to
Yeah.
Brian, they were not.
Okay.
And it was, we would bring you a porta potty
Okay.
sort of
Yeah. 'cause-
situation.
Okay.
Yeah. So hopefully that's part of their improvements out there, but we'll see. And if not, it's something. Yeah, something.
They flooded and backed up from the time I was a child. And I'm 40 something now. Okay, so they didn't fix it in that many decades. I'm not sure if you can fix it besides a bulldozer or some dynamite or something. That's just a concern, because saying they have restrooms out there, they don't, so anyway, I was just curious.
So along with Harbor Heights, coming down the line as far as funding goes around that project, we have earmarked $885,000 for refunding in 2025. The rest is unsecured. There's no funding. So we cannot do this project, can't even do phase one of it with even the additional funding that's coming in without some, I don't even know of a grant. It would have to be like multiple grants plus some donors, plus the city kicking in capital funding for us to even get through phase one. And we'd have to get creative with the access road. So right now that's on hold.
When you say phase one, do you mean the access road? That I know,
Phase
or
one
phase
is 2 fields
Yeah.
and the access road.
Okay.
It's mostly just site prep for that one
Yeah.
part, because there's such an incline,
Right, yeah,
75
okay.
feet of elevation drop.
And that
from top to
includes
bottom.
the parking lot, I imagine.
Yes,
Is that on Elwha or Gun Club? Do we know?
down by Elba.
Yeah, I think the most logical thing is that a parking space get put at the end of Elwha to access the nature trails or the bike trails or whatever we create there, rather than, building out Gun Club Road. There's a whole lot of challenges with Gun Club Road.
Yeah.
Aside from financing, easement widths and stuff are inconsistent going up there. It's going to be a pretty long process.
The access road along Gun Club
Yeah.
is what is kind of killing that.
Yeah. So it's better just going through Elwha and making that the main point of ingress.
Yeah, there was some, pushback from council because, the neighbor pushback with the access to the neighborhood to the park. But the reality is, most parks are accessed through neighborhoods, right? That's where parks are located, right? So I think, you know, if we're not looking at this from a regional facility like we were before, right? It's more of a, you know, nature hiking trail and bike trail and stuff. I think we probably find that everybody be in favor of L walking in the logical access point.
Thank you.
Park Little League field renovations for 300,000. That was planned for 2024. There's no funding associated with it, so it's a non-starter, and it was put in there as this is a priority that's come from the city. We'd really like to make it happen. We don't know how we're going to pay for it, so that's going to be me looking around and seeing if there's RCO or maybe like a YES grant. That's a youth. It's kind of a youth athletic field.
I did hear from somebody involved that might be getting an email in regards to a proposal with them, you know, doing some sort of fundraising to try to help that out for improvement. So I don't know if that's.
We did get them some dirt, right? For the ball fields.
We're working on it. Some of Tim, it's going to be about $40,000 to bring in the topsoil that he's looking at and make those improvements. I think that's just a material, so we're looking at like 70,000 for install. So, you know, where do we pull that out of?
Does that include the dirt for the actual baselines?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like clayish dirt.
Yeah, well, you know, that the dirt for the baselines, I think is an important issue. I mean, it's a safety issue now. I mean, kids are gonna get hurt with the how deep this.
Yeah, makes me cringe when I go to, you know, sports fields up in like Anacortes or down in South Whitby, Langley. There's no reason Oak Harbor should not have, you know, this level of field
figure out
usage.
what we need to get that done and get us a number. And we'll figure out a way to fund that. I mean, that's in my mind. Just I cringe right along with you, Ryan.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
We're cringing together.
Tim's working on that number to get to us, and that's where we're at right now. We met him.
I think that should be our goal, is to actually make it so we don't cringe. Like if we're successful here, when we no longer have to cringe when we go to other comparable cities parks. If we did that, we'd win.
Well, that's phase one. Is let's get uncringed.
Right, yeah, let's get-
and then,
yeah.
and then let's
No
start
more
winning
cringy.
awards and being in
Yes,
national
exactly.
publications and gold, accredited.
So you're saying I set the bar too low?
Hey, aim high and anchor your.
I was just thinking in
goals.
process. That's all. Let's get the.
Let's all envision a day when we can roll in the grass at Windjammer Park.
Smith Park renovation, so that's 50,000 that goes in with the 11,000 for those improvements I talked about. Parks, let's see, 7th Avenue Wetlands Trail Feasibility Study. This is, we're looking at possibly combining this with the Public Works 7th Avenue project.
That makes sense. That seems smart.
Arterial 7th Avenue improvements, that's a 2.3 million in 2023, 2024, so that's happening right now. And we had kind of a first meeting on it 2 weeks ago.
I think there's a way to fund that too, that I don't know is being pursued, you know, through the wetland mitigations. You know, we've got quite a bit of wetland down there that we could be using as an additional drainage basin for commercial projects where developers could buy storm drain credits, which would, you know, offset reduction in their storm drain mitigation on site. And that storm drain mitigation then takes place off-site at this wetland bank. And then we could direct those funds directly to, you know, the maintenance of that wetland, which would include a trail system and then, you know, public use.
So the trails feasibility study project is kind of on the tail end of the 7th Avenue improvements. We have 10,000 for a feasibility study planned for in 25 and 100,000 of TAP grant planning in 26. So a couple of years out, you know, again, that's another location that we've talked a little bit about. Easy recreational uses that we do out there, trails obviously, and things like disc golf or other stuff like that.
And I think, parking wise, I think we've got enough upland area there on those parcels. We've got off Coochie Street to
Yeah.
connect to that where we can create a parking area. 'Cause that's always been the challenge,
Yeah.
accessing Office Northeast Seventh area. There really is no area to
Well,
park.
there's already like that pseudo parking lot right there across from that house and church there that's sort of got ecology block around it, and it's pretty solid.
Yeah.
I think that makes a lot of sense.
And then we have Rich Haven Park. Okay, so we have a bunch of like placeholders.
Okay.
There's no funding for all these. It's just identified to maybe go after REIT. All of them have $68,250. I'm not sure whether that number came up, but this is all for playground equipment renovations in Ridge Haven, Sumner Park, and Volunteer Park are the three currently identified to replace the playgrounds there. Placeholders, those are all 2027. So it's just, hey, this is something that is a priority we really need to address.
Is there an underlying assumption that we'll be replacing equipment, or is that just to like repaint, repair, or because 68 doesn't seem like a lot if you're doing
It's a
I mean,
placeholder.
it seems
I don't
more
think
like
there's been any
the
planning
price
on,
of tearing it out
Yeah.
and removal.
I wouldn't even do that. I would do it a little more purposefully. Like, what's the neighborhood it's in? What's the needs there? Do people need a dog park? Do they need a picnic area? Do they want grills? Is a place where maybe you want to have like, a little kid soccer practice at, or is it, we want a large, a kind of regional draw playground here where, that's what families want to see. What does the location want to be? We've been kind of really bad with how we've set up playgrounds where we have this sort of like, I don't know, cookie cutter template of, okay, little pocket park, a slide, an old merry-go-round, and,
Yeah, a
maybe
little
some
jumbo gym
swings,
and a couple
right?
swings.
And we make it good. They're not really that activated. They get used, but they could be used a lot more if we built them a little more purposeful.
Merry-go-round at Charlie Brown Park's responsible for this scar right here. Don't go under the merry-go-round to get your, super whammo ring.
I will not admit how many times I've flinged my kids off a merry-go-round. Being a park professional, they are my like test dummies for just about everything.
I was certain, my brother and I were certain that was the point. When we were kids. Last guy standing wins. Isn't that how that works?
And then-
What kind of standards do we follow for playgrounds? Are there national standards?
There is, yeah.
We're
For
required
playground
to follow
safety,
those?
there is, yes. Yeah, so there's tolerances. So there's a minimum of 18-inch compacted, depending on the height of the equipment and the type of equipment for surfacing.
Right.
Back in the day, pea gravel was fine, and actually, I think it still is acceptable
Yeah.
as long as you have certain depths. It's not ADA friendly or accessible, and it's terrible. Kids will like cut their legs on it, falling off slides and stuff. Ideally, the best practice is a pour-in-place surfacing. Provides plenty of cushion. Wheelchairs can go on it. People with limited mobility and balance issues can walk on it just fine. That's ideal. It ends up usually being half the cost of the playground though. It's a lot more expensive.
Yeah, that's why I bring it up. I mean, that's going to be a driver
Yeah.
of cost and decisions.
Yeah.
Whatever those standards are.
Brian,
Yes.
this isn't necessarily, this is just sort of background based on my newness. But when these plans are made for all of these projects, how much consideration is given to like the shift, for instance, in the population? Like we're going to have fewer babies born, but a much more aging population. Is that all put into consideration in terms of spending these dollars?
There is an existing Parks and Recreation plan. It was done by one of our city engineers.
Yeah.
It was before we had a Parks and Recreation department.
Yeah.
And, and there's consideration to the demographics and the trends that they see in that. I inherited these projects. Like I said, half of them are unfunded. This is probably what we should do. So I don't know the whole process on how they came to put these ones into the budget. They're
I
interesting.
remember the process not including very much information about. our
Yeah, so
consideration
these
about
are off the
population.
capital improvements list, I'm assuming,
Yes.
which is a 7-year look, right? And staff becomes before council with this 7-year, these are things we kind of need. Now, one of the biggest improvements I think we're making to this process just happened at a discussion we had last week, in which we're breaking the town down into neighborhoods, and we've named these neighborhoods. We've said, okay, this is Old Town, and this is, Shadow Glen, right? And so we break, because what's happened in the past is, I don't think council's ever taken a look at each individual neighborhood's needs, right? It's like this giant funnel that just comes at you. Okay, here's all the things we need in the city the next 7 years, right? And it's all put forward by staff in this, 600-page document, and this stuff that's 7 years out, like what he's talking about here, or 5, 6 years, no thought's been put to it, other than the fact that somewhere a suggestion came in that we make sure that we cover this and we get a placeholder, like Brian said, so that we don't forget that coming up, and the reality is where it gets addressed is in the biennial budget, right? When we sit down 2 years in advance, right, and lay out the budget, then we start getting into the nuts and bolts a little more. Does that make sense to actually to placehold that money? And so often that stuff changes, goes away, gets added to, morphs.
Well, I just kind of want to backtrack just again, because I didn't quite finish my thought, which is, so I remember that process because I was working for the city at the time. And, I had concerns then, as we still do, that, demographics are something beyond, like individual neighborhoods. I think you would agree to that. And I'm hearing that there's such a competition for funds. There's so many things that can't be funded or need to be put on hold, that I think as a citizen, and would just want to know that may be revisited or looked at as each thing is considered about giving money, like in those neighborhoods, looking further beyond that the neighborhood wants more soccer fields, to how many kids are going to be soccer age in 5 years or 10 years versus how many people are going to be
Right.
baby. So I would like to think.
Yeah.
That's why I'm asking.
No,
I think there's a lot of people that would like to think.
Yeah, and that's so important that we build for, the future of the next 10, even 20 years, especially like when we're talking about facilities. The biggest mistake that municipalities make, especially when they're building like recreational facilities, is they build for the community they have right now, that day, and not who's actually going to be using it once it's built 3 years from now and operating over the next 20, 30 years. So yeah, very important. And part of the so there's two main things of why I'm going through this list. One is just to give you a framework of, okay, here's what's been talked about. And for the new people to these workshops, we've been going through, and we'll jump into that next, just go on the whiteboard and mapping out, okay, here's where our priorities are. Here's what we want to work on over the next 2 years and where we should be directing our efforts. This is what's been handed to me. Blaine and the mayor are totally okay with us pivoting and changing directions on anything. So if you want to redirect funding or whatever. The other reason is because this document is our implementation document. We can do all the plans in the world, but they just end up being nice little bookshelf items until they're put into this document, which is, this is what we have the funds and council approval to build and go forward on. So as we go through here, I want you to think about, okay, yes, that is really important to me. Yes, that's what I hear that the community wants. I'm not hearing anything about this. Like, for instance, what we talked about with a adaptive playground as a high priority, not on this list, right? So it is not an implementation item right now. Another one to your comments, yeah, I think there is a lot of competition for funding the way the city has operated. With some new department directors in now, that's going to change a little bit. One, I'm all about alternative revenue sources, and it's just such low hanging fruit for Parks and Recreation. There's a lot of funds out there. We are presenting next week for RCED. We have RCO grants that meeting at 3 o'clock. We're doing our applications for. I just this afternoon, right before this meeting, and maybe even talk a little bit to your point, going in back and forth with the Washington State Parks and Recreation Association on what they call a racial equity challenge that really looks at. So this is the things they ask. Does your city have a jewel or showcase park? What type of neighborhood is it located in? Have you identified areas within your local city or jurisdiction that would be considered a parkland desert or park that doesn't get the same kind of funding as others? Do you know why? And it goes on, but it's really talking about, do we have parklands that are really not built for the neighborhoods that are around them? And are there segments of our community that are underserved? Whether, parklands tend to not be in low income areas. You don't see trees and a lot of beautification in a lot of those areas. Yet purposely building those can have a transformative effect on those neighborhoods. So all things we want to consider, and great thoughts there.
And we have a federally designated low-income area in our city.
Yes, which helps us a lot with the grant applications. It removes a lot of the matching requirements that the city has for these.
And one of those parks happens to be your park with the windmill.
Yeah.
That's in the opportunity zone.
So what I get from here is, all right, we have a lot of these neighborhood and pocket parks that have old, outdated equipment. Some of them are not even up to code, that need to be renovated. And what I really think is this all needs to be put into a new park and recreation master plan that purposefully looks at what do these neighborhoods need and how should we
And the
replace
future needs.
Yes. Yep. Exactly. What do we see as the trends in the demographics for the next 10, 20 years?
How does this fit into our planning document that we started last time? Or you're going to get into that?
Yep, that's what we're jumping into next.
Okay.
Right. I just want to, again, like I said, go through this as a framework of this is what city council is looking at, right? This is the document that they're going to say, okay, well, here's what's on our docket, and here's the year, and here's the funding source, and here's what we're going to be doing. Right. The budget is their implementation roadmap. So as we go through this, I want you to be aware of what's in here and what's not in here. So we can have a discussion about, you know what, we really ought to take the funding from this project and let's redirect it over here to this priority that we have.
Can I ask a question about that last item about underserved areas?
Yeah.
Knowing that two big parcels of unactivated land right now, Harbor Heights and the Northeast 7th, they butt up to trailer parks.
Right.
Does that then allow us to somehow, rope in extra qualification funds, knowing that, Harbor Heights is between Parkwood Manor and Wagon Wheel, abutting both of those, which have nothing.
Yeah.
Really.
Definitely opens up some doors and opportunities in grant funding or being more attractive in our application when we're applying for these things. Yeah.
Okay.
And good things to point out in there. Sunrise Rotary Dog Park expansion. Right now that's on hold. It was planned for $14,000 of park impact fees. So I don't have a date for that. That's something that we'll want to talk about. There is a need for more dog parks. Oak Harbor loves their dogs. I see them all the time. They get walked all over the place. And we have some conflicts, especially between some of the leagues and dog owners who use, these fenced in fields areas, for dog runs. The problem is that in most cases, when higher density housing is built, they pay a park impact fee.
Mm-hmm.
Now that fee is supposed to go towards the city building parkland adjacent nearby where they can access that. Because these high density housings, everyone needs a backyard. Kids need somewhere to run around. People need somewhere to walk their dog. And if public lands are not adjacent right there for that purpose, then people in the middle of winter will just let their dog go and they're running along trails or whatever's around. So we do want to give some thought about what are the needs, and maybe there's an opportunity to make some changes in our code for development requirements. We want to keep a character of a small town feel, but we have some larger city needs. We're a lot larger than we think we are a little bit. And so if we do start going the route of, we really don't want to get sprawled. We don't want a lot of these, large developments that are just clear cutting out everything. If we want a higher density areas in certain places, how do we make sure that we retain the character and look we want, but also serve the public space needs there? So a great example of that are the condos next to the townhouses, whatever they are, next to Windjammer Park. You guys already had that conversation. I wasn't here for it. I hear it's interesting. A lot of the people didn't show up though for it that were here the previous meeting.
I was sick, so Carrie ran that one.
Yeah.
So there's definitely a need there. We can put up signs, but signs don't really solve the problem. It gives us a little bit of teeth for enforcement, but PD doesn't have the capacity, and I don't have park rangers on that to enforce any of that. So, how do you solve the issue?
I have kind of a side part of a comment question. I'm not recommending it, but just a thought. The Little League fields at Windjammer now,
Yeah.
and that seemed to be the biggest issue according to the patrol officer that gave us the presentation last time. Because it's already enclosed, they're already enclosed.
Mhm.
So it's a natural place to want to bring your dog in, let them run free. You don't have to worry about it. Other people in the park don't have to worry about it. But it causes problems for the field maintenance and for, whatever crap they leave behind, literally, for people playing. However, those ball fields, from my observation, are not used at all except for Little League season. Is there a possibility to make that a dog park in the off season? I know it would cause damage to the fields, but I'm not sure if it's irreversible damage. It's just, it wouldn't be a full solution. It would be a seasonal solution, but I don't know. I mean, you have to talk to your guys to see if that's
Great question. So we'll be talking about that next week at our regular meeting. We'll be going over the Windjammer survey results and talking about how we want to move forward with the 1.3 million for improvements that we have scheduled there.
Anecdotally on this topic, since our last conversation about dog parks, there's a lot of interest about having quality dog parks. And so I've just spent some time walking around and talking to everybody who's walking dogs, just stopping them and introducing myself and getting information. And what everybody said about nobody wants to use these dog parks was 100% to a T, that nobody wanted to use them. And then the second thing is they said the only places that they feel like they can walk their dog that's not in the street, which we all know, are Fort Nugent and the little short piece through the marsh at Windjammer, Friend Marsh, and then a little bit of Windjammer. And they said that they try to figure out when other dog owners are going to be there by observation so that they can time their space because there's so much competition for it. And we all know that, not all dogs are equally behaved and not all dogs are equally socialized, and certain individual personalities, both of dogs and dog owners, cause conflict. And to a T, they all expressed the fact that they wish they had another place to walk their dogs. And some of them then also said they wish they had a place for their best behaved dogs to be able to play and socialize with others. So yeah, to that end, I mean, it was every single dog walker that was willing to communicate with me. The ones that had their dogs off leash weren't ready to communicate with me because we were having different conversations. Yeah, so what everybody expressed in that last meeting though was 100% proven over basically every single dog owner I've talked to since then.
Yeah.
Which
I know I drive 25 minutes to take my dog to Patmore
yeah,
Pet, and then, or even I'll go to Green Bank Farm. Just
Yeah.
And I think a lot of those dog owners would be willing to pay some sort of park fee for that, the use of a well-maintained. Because, I mean, it's the maintenance that's expensive, right? It's, building is one thing, but maintaining it's another thing. But I think everybody would agree as a dog owner that they'd be willing to put a envelope.
Yeah,
money in an
what's
envelope.
interesting is dog parks usually are built with no maintenance in mind. There's
Uh-huh.
gravel and
Yeah.
weeds and no real grass
Right.
areas, and it's just kind of a place that you really don't want to hang out,
All of a
right?
sudden destroys the pads of your dog's feet.
And it's
so,
not made,
yeah.
it's not made. What dog owners want is they want the same parks that people enjoy,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Well, that one at Patmore Pet has signs that it's maintained by Fetch, that group Fetch.
Yeah.
I don't know a lot about them, but that's to your point of, people care for what really feel strong.
I've never heard of that group before. Is that like just a dog owner?
Yeah.
It's like a dog
I
owners club.
Yeah,
Yeah, I think they do the one on South Libby too.
Yeah.
yeah. and
It's like all of that
super-
civic stuff seems to stop somewhere around Libby Road and like doesn't make it up here for those types of organizations. It seems it's like Libby Road South, all that stuff happens, and then some reason it doesn't get up here because maybe or something. I don't know what it is, but it's to a T.
Interesting.
The other thing that was mentioned about that was the dog officer, and his name escaping me right now, was saying, well, you can just take them down to the tidelands, right? And then you just have to have your animal needs to be in control, not unleashed. Well, almost every person said was like, well, I don't have a place to wash my dog off afterwards if I take them down there. And so their thought was, well, would there be, like at Windjammer, for example, if they're having their dog down there, was there some access to water where they could spray their dog off so that they would do it? Because they're not going to take their dog back to their apartment completely covered in sand when they don't have access to that because their housing
Put one of those
situation.
in right after we get done putting back in the dog dish,
Yeah.
the dog bowl, right? That we took out for
Yeah.
some reason, right? I mean, we have
Right.
no way to give your dog any water.
Exactly. So it was a
Right.
novel idea. Anyway, I'm just expressing it because it's on topic right now, and I wanted to get it out of my mind because who knows how long it'll stay there before it's gone.
I
Down
think,
the
you
black
could
hole.
almost incorporate that into a park standard that,
Yeah.
Every larger park over so many acres or whatever, has a designated dog friendly area, that's maintained just as well and nice. And we should have a basic standard in all of our parks that drinking fountains, have the little doggy dish, and they have the water bottle
Yeah.
dispensers, which saves a lot of water along with the regular one.
100%. Yeah.
I mean, there's just such great low tech
yeah.
technology now. There's no reason not to do
And I apologize for the interruption. I just wanted to make sure that got said in honoring the comments of our last meeting and reinforcing that.
Okay.
Brian, I bet you'd like late at night going, you know what? If only we could just do this, and everything should have that. And you might just.
Oh yeah, I gave a vision to council, and I don't know if it was overwhelming or not, but what's interesting.
I was sitting on Zoom going, yeah, you go, Brian. That's it, go.
And what's interesting to me, and I hear it in some of the comments, when you talk about, staffing support and how we'll do some of these things, is just this desire or this, I think we've lived so long at kind of a mediocre standard level that, it's hard to raise our vision to, we should have, these nice facilities. And there's no reason you can't, communities your size and smaller, have all these things. Let's see. Hi, are you just jumping in to
Drop it in.
participate here? Okay, so dog park. And then the shoreline restoration project, we have some funding we took out of ARPA just to do an emergency Band-Aid with the erosion that we saw at the last king tide there at Windjammer Park. We have a larger shared project from, I think it was originally planned midway to Regatta. That's being expanded. Basically, we're going from Fred Marsh out to the marina with that project. So that is going on now through 2026. Harbor Heights Access Road, already talked about that. Senior Services roof replacement is completed. Senior Services generator is in process right now. That's coming out of ARPA funding for $75,000. Our Parks and Recreation shuttle, that is in process, completed. That was approved by council. And we have the funding in our replacement fund. And that vehicle comes early next year, and we'll be able to do senior tours. We're looking at using it for field trips, summer camps, and then possibly also helping the marina with shuttling people from the marina to downtown. And
What
make it
size
look-
vehicle is that?
It's like a 15 passenger
50
coach.
transit or something?
Mhm.
Okay. Cool.
And then senior services parking lot at the center. We had put in a RCED grant that was denied, so we're looking at other alternative funding. We'd like to do that in the next couple of years, though.
I think the HUD secretary said that there were some grants that HUD had that they felt would be applicable to that.
Yeah, we did meet with them.
We talked to HUD, we're over 10,000 people
Mhm.
and didn't qualify. We've hit a lot of, unfortunately, that sounds like a great project, and I thought it with the agencies that would benefit for them, that there would be some opportunities, and we've been hitting brick walls on that one. Really surprising how difficult it is to get grant funding for that project. So yeah, we met with HUD, we met with USDA, we met with a lot of groups, and so Wendy has our grants administrator has that as a major priority, but we've been really looking for it and fitting, and so we're kind of in this thing where we're too small. We're too big to qualify for a lot of them, or we're too small to qualify for other opportunities. So I kind of call it the working poor is what we kind of are as a city in that issue, where if we were smaller, we would qualify for more grant funding on it. They're usually geared for 20,000 and less for a lot of those projects.
Is the purpose of that to expand the number of parking spaces or to make improvements on current number of spaces?
I think mostly to make improvements with the grading of it. Right now, it's I mean, borderline unsafe for a lot of the patrons we have there. Right,
Oh,
there's just some very steep access points, and the parking lot itself is not designed very well, so, and it's in mediocre condition.
Yeah, it has a
Poor condition.
barrier between going where the Boys and Girls Club is over to the other one. They talked about ripping that curb out there just to allow more accessibility, but it's both to expand and also improve. Look at different entrances. We've had a lot of accidents on that hill area with an older generation that's going in and out of the center. So we can certainly reconfigure it and expand it and also deal with the accessibility. That's a priority for it, but it's really wanted to see if we can get grant funding on that, and that's what I've been telling you. It's just, unfortunately, we haven't found that yet. So, but if we have to, we can go congressional direct spending projects with the Congress or with the state in the next budget cycle. We could say we've tried, so some of those ones where they just sponsor it directly. We got a $651,000 economic development one through the budget cycle. So that's what those are for. If you can't get grant funding for it, we could say, we can't get grant funding, then we could try other means to get direct sponsorship, or it's called earmark is sometimes but the term we use for that. So we can try that route.
Windjammer Park. So this is 1.284 million. Now what you need to understand, so we'll be talking about this next week during our board meeting, but what you need to understand about that is kind of how the funding is sort of chunked over time. So right now we currently have $408,000. We are looking at $626,000 in 2024 from REIT and park impact fees. And we'll want to have probably a look. We can talk a little more about park impact fees at our board meeting, but right now our current fund balance is $143,000. So we want to make sure that, as we try and kick some park impact fees to match some of these different projects, that we're not overspending that fund, and looking at what we can expect in what's coming up in development. In 2027, there's probably another $250,000 to come into there. So the survey is completed, and we'll talk about that next week on June 12th. But understand, we don't just have 1.3 million right now. We have 408,000 now, 626 in 2024, and then another 250 in 27. So how we plan out the projects need to kind of flow with that funding availability. And then lastly, the sewer reuse effluent water system. So this is $300,000. This was, we have a need to address the cost of operating the splash pad. We looked at, okay, how do we how do we do this? Can we reclaim that water, put it into a non-potable tank that ties into the irrigation system? Should we put in a recirculatory system? We're working on trying to get a new controller. We've already gone through, it's really difficult to program that splash pad with the current controller it has. We've spent a lot of time doing it over the last couple of months, and we're already seeing like a 45% decrease in water use. So just little tweaks like that can have a big impact. But understand that the splash pad is a non-recirculatory potable water system, which means that it's basically like a hose from your house that just flows, right? And then goes into the sewer and out to sea. So it is very costly to operate that. There's a lot of demand for it, especially if the season gets hot. We've accommodated a little bit. When we first started operating it, it was $250,000 to operate that. That amount has gone down quite a bit with the changes we've made. We'll see this season what it is, whether that cost is palatable or if we feel like, we really need to address this in other ways. But that $300,000, we really should take a good look at how does that go. I think we're okay to do a reuse of fluent water system. We would just manage that project, but we do want to look at, is there a more water conservative or smarter use way to operate that?
Is there irrigation in Windjammer for the green split, the grass?
Yes. Yeah.
Can we tie that in? So, because I don't know if you've been in that splash pad, but I can't tell you how many kids I watch drink that water. And I'd be very nervous putting non-potable water back through there. And
yeah, so we wouldn't do that. So,
So,
you can,
We can't, but.
yeah,
Okay.
we wouldn't do that.
Sorry, I
So
misunderstood.
a couple of things you can do is you take that water, it drains out, you
Yeah.
put it into a non-potable tank that
Yeah.
ties into the irrigation
Perfect.
system. Now, people drink irrigation water, that's their
Yeah,
own
that's
fault.
their
They
own
shouldn't do
choice. That's
that.
their own choice.
Please don't drink irrigation water.
No, that's fine. I just wanted to make sure I
Or
understood.
we can put in a recirculatory system, which takes that water, it treats it, and then puts it back in.
Okay.
So it is safe.
The entire
you.
park has been wired with purple pipe for reused water.
Mhm.
So right
Yeah.
now it's still running on the old white pipe that's running throughout the park, but there is purple pipe running everywhere.
Okay.
And it was intended to tie into the sewage treatment plant and use the reclaimed water
Gotcha.
from that. But we haven't completed those connections. Did we get the permit applied for, Blaine?
No, the cost is more prohibitive.
Yeah.
And the difficulty, so,
Oh.
it was kind of sold as something just plug and play,
Yeah.
and there's a lot more to it. So Brian's even looking about not even trying to do it.
And then we have the problem
Yeah.
with the fact that our grass doesn't really want to absorb the water.
Yeah.
Because of the nature of the substrate beneath it.
We also have another expensive problem is that we keep getting line breaks with that new system that's gone in. And it's just the way it was installed.
Oh, man.
And each time, this is now up to almost a $70,000 fix. So we've just had a second line break in a couple weeks. The problem is that the pressure is coming in at 150
Yeah.
PSI and the pipe and system is meant for 50.
Yeah.
So we have a pressure reduction valve that has been ordered and that's coming in. It'll come here and it's probably about another 4 weeks out.
So there was no forethought to the pressure reduction valve. I'm trying not to laugh, but I love low carb enough that I feel like it's okay to laugh about it. Does that make sense?
This is a engineered, water treatment plant project.
Yeah.
That had a park project as almost an afterthought
Sure.
added on.
Yeah,
So
makes sense.
I
The
don't
park was built by the people who built the clean water facility.
Yeah.
And that's what they do for a living.
And so it's the nature of the grass there. Is it just they ran so much equipment over it that it's so compacted that?
Yeah, they took the stuff out of the pit.
Yeah.
Right, which was a lot of clay.
Yeah.
Packed it heavily
Yeah.
with rollers.
Yeah.
And then, just based on my guesstimate, they used 2 to 3 inches of topsoil. And that guesstimate is based on go down there with a stake and try to drive the stake
Yeah.
into the ground and,
That's a good test. That's as good as a scientific test, I think.
yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay, so I want to spend just a few minutes and then we'll let you guys go because I don't want to keep you too late. But so with all the discussion that we had around those projects, where we're at, what's missing out of there, where do we want to redirect some funding, where do we need to find funding for some of these projects. Now that you kind of have that framework, let's talk a little bit about your priorities list and kind of where we are, and I'll kind of write down on here. So we have it as, this is how your powers and duties are broken out. Facilities, programming, trees, and conservation.
So they're technically the tree board, aren't they?
They are.
Yeah,
Yeah.
some cities with trees, they actually have a separate committee, but it's inherent. It's just one of the duties to.
Well, that was part of the Tree USA designation, right? That we had to
Yeah,
have
we've
a-
been in that for a
tree
long
board,
time,
yeah.
and so rather than having I've been at municipalities that have done it with a separate tree board. It's just one of the components of the parks.
Okay, and then rules and policies. So if you go to the code, your powers and duties, if you extract out basically the theme of each of those sections, it is you're responsible to educate yourselves, to be trained by staff and experts that we can bring in during our board meetings, to research, to talk with constituents around the community, and do planning with the department, and return a report to council and give them recommendations based on recreational facilities, recreational programming, trees and conservation, funding, and the budget, which is kind of unusual. Most committees and commissions and boards, they're not budgetary oversight boards. But the code specifically calls out that you should give recommendations to council on the department's budget and funding opportunities. A master plan for Parks and Recreation, and then rules and policies for Parks and Recreational facilities. So this is your mandate, right? This is what you guys should be focusing on holistically and generally on how you should be building your agendas each month. Are we addressing these? When are we going back and meeting with council to get their feedback on our recommendations on policies around each of these areas? That's a key issue, because like I said, we can talk all we want. I can go out and create a Parks and Recreation master plan that can even go into the comprehensive plan. But until council sees it in the budget and they say, yes, we agree this is the direction we want to go, all in favor of implementing this, nothing really happens to it. So I love planning, do a lot of planning. I love finding funding, do a lot of that. But implementation is I want to do rid of bin cuttings, right? I want to have the third graders at council, celebrating the naming of a park or whatever that is. I want to see action items that we can put in. So what you identified last time as key issues out of each of those was the need for an inclusive playground, sports facilities, both expansion and improvement, replacements of current playgrounds, looking at unused and underutilized spaces, undeveloped spaces, talking about safety and different things like that. So just call for those opportunities. And kind of along with that, safety. And then communication. Okay, so that's where you got to last time. And then you head on with their
Were we including pickleball in sports facilities? 'Cause I feel like we put some energy towards that. I'm trying to remember if that was included under the sports facilities or not.
So sports facilities, you had replace 2 soccer fields,
Okay.
add 2 additional fields, pickleball facilities, disc golf course.
Thank you.
And Brian, with parks, well, under your supervision with the marina and senior services moving over, does that then realign with this board also?
As far as,
Well, your facilities, I mean, if the marina is part of Park and Rec, is the
So-
Parks Board now absorbing that as part of their,
so we have a marina advisory committee, and we also have an arts commission, which is also another part of it. We have recommended and approved as a board to make the change of you from the Parks Board to the Parks and Recreation Board, so recreation will be added onto this. We are going through this process, we've already gone through it with the Arts Commission. And we will go through this process with the marina as well. Because we already have existing committees for those specific areas, right now we've decided to leave them separate. But we've already planned for a couple of crossover joint meetings, specifically with the Arts Commission, I know. And I imagine at some point we'll do it with the marina as well. We're going after a park maintenance grant. It's a $100,000 grant for parklands. Because the marina is designated as a parkland, we're doing the grant for them. Because I have a whole ton of other grants in the works right now for parks. But the marina, because it's municipal owned and not a port district, there's very little available funds grant wise for them. So this is one area tying them in with public parks that can open up a lot of opportunities.
well, and does that, I mean, part of the idea of rolling, everything in, right, was that cohesiveness, right? And seeing where we could, make the synergy all come together.
Yeah.
Is that segmentation a little more cumbersome for you to work through? I can see from council, right? But of course, now we're gonna be having recommendations from a Marine Advisory Committee and recommendations from a Parks Board. And of course, if both those recommendations aren't synergy, right, then as a council, we're gonna be put in a tough position with dealing with inside of a.
Yeah, so this is how, that's a great question. So this is how I see that kind of all coming together. So we have, various council appointed boards and commissions over different aspects of the department, which is pretty regular in most cities. And then you have a Parks and Recreation master plan, right? So we go through this planning process of priorities with each of you guys. This kind of informs us as a department, hey, this is what the community wants to see us working towards. And so when we go and it's time for budget meeting with Blaine and David to prepare that, we take these things. What are the projects? What's the deliverables on each of these? And that kind of all goes into a Parks and Recreation master plan, right? Which is a roadmap of here's everything we want to accomplish in the department. I think it's because there's so much planning that goes around each one of these things. It is good to have separate. There is crossover for sure, but it is great to have separate.
Well, I want to make sure we're not holding you back, right? I mean, as far as.
No.
getting it to-
Right. So, as the director, I'm I guess the common thread between it, but ultimately all needs to come back to council. And council needs to hear from all of them. You guys will be the ones that ultimately decide, yes, we agree with you. These priorities are the direction we want to go. Because they serve at the pleasure of council as do staff. Ultimately, what we do in our planning here, we said go to a workshop and council needs to get feedback on it. Yes, you're exactly in line with our vision for what needs to happen in this area.
Is there a hierarchy though in regards to that? Like with those subcommittees, are we all on equal tier as far as?
Yeah. Okay,
so even though.
I don't know,
Parks-
really understand
I
what the
guess-
designation between like a commission or a board is.
Yeah, I guess I'm just trying to understand, because, if we are talking about limited funds or scarcity of resources, and then we have the marina, which is for lack of a better word, kind of a pig as far as money go, what it needs. And I mean, you could shovel all the money in the world at it, I think, for the next 10 years. And then knowing that some of the other needs that are here in our community for a large segment of non-boat owning people, I guess trying to figure out how that works, and then how do we make a more streamlined ask or request or proposals to council so that these are working together, in synergy, and I think in elevating one another rather than in competition.
Yeah, and I think all the boards and commissions are definitely in line with that. The Arts Commission wants to support you guys with planning and beautification of parks and placement of public art in parklands. And I think you guys have a similar desire. And same thing with the marina. We have Catalina Park there, and we want to do more recreational programming and bring the public down the marina. The marina, though, kind of has a problem on the other side of going out, and that's partly because right now the only people that we have on it are marina users.
Right.
And so they're there for usually mostly a self-interested kind of thing. It'd be great if we could get some non-boat owners or just regular community members that aren't living at the marina or tied into the marina on that committee to give so we have more of a true cross section of the community as far as like, what should the marina be, planning for it, how does it tie in with the economic economy of our community?
Yeah, I think your idea of some crossover events, because I think we need to build those relationships across the board with arts and with marina and then with us, because relation-based sales, are kind of the best way, and then we need to be able to do
Catalina
that.
Park is kind of an interesting park because it's really not a park, it's actually zone marina. It's not zone park.
Oh, okay.
But perfect example, and Brian and I have talked about this, I don't know if I mentioned this to you guys, I would love to see dry camping in Catalina Park. We could fit 20 to 25 RV spaces into that park. It gets park camping back in our downtown core.
Sure.
It brings non-marina users to our marina and our waterfront, which, may attract food vendors and other things to show up around the marina, because now you've got 20, 25 additional families. It would be additional revenue for the marina. There's already bathrooms and showers there for them to use, and there's already marina staff there to collect the dues. I think it would be a positive revenue source, as well as create another recreation, and possibly even put us over the top where the shuttle makes more sense, because now not only do you have the marina visitors, the day visitors coming to use that shuttle, but now you have all the campers using that shuttle. So there's a perfect example of a crossover, right? Would camping be a facility of a parks board and discussion of us, but it's actually on marina land. So is that a discussion that the Marina Advisory Committee needs to make, who may not be a total fan of it because they may not necessarily see it the same way we do. So that's kind of why I brought that up, Brian, but you knew there was probably a reason behind it. So there you go.
And so when you envision that in your mind, you leave the playground there or take that out?
No, leave the playground
then you
there.
think you can
And
get 20
I
plus
think
slips
quite
in there?
frankly, quite frankly, with marking that thing out with some railroad ties or something similar, you could develop a campground there fairly quickly and fairly inexpensive, low-hanging fruit.
Well, and it's certainly an interest. People don't come now for events because they can't park their RVs.
Yeah, how often do you see that park utilized? It's absolutely underutilized. It's a gorgeous location. It's a place that people would love to camp on the waterfront.
Yeah, it's an interesting thought. I like it.
The yacht club uses it for weddings,
Yeah.
and unfortunately, they don't really give much money back to us, the
Yeah.
yacht club. So they give us about $2,400 a year in revenue, and it really should be 10 times that amount. So
A nice facility.
Okay.
Another one, and I know why you're right, Brian, I'll just take it real quick, like the breakwater, for the marina that I would love to see built, that we talked with the Army Corps of Engineers, that would become an extension of Flintstone Park. It would be similar to the breakwaters you see in other cities, you'd be able to walk on the top of it, and that would then lead to additional development of our
Yep.
It can't be used for passenger service or anything else, but if that area was dredged and was protected by a breakwater and the bay wasn't filling in, that mini harbor would become a natural extension of Flintstone Park. And we'd probably be looking at mosquito fleet and whale watching tours and other people being able to use that ride again out of our downtown core.
Partnership with the Navy because they own the other half of that bay?
Well, we own all of the waterfront from
Right.
Skagit Valley College over to Flintstone
And then
Park.
they have the other half.
Yeah.
So they closed off Mailer
Right.
Trail, but I've had preliminary discussion. They could put up a fence
Mhm.
on the other side of it
Yeah.
and just open up Mailer Trail.
Yeah.
And be able to go Mailer's Point Trail and be able to go all the way out there.
Yeah, that'd be a
And meets their
fantastic. Yeah.
security requirements, because it would be just fenced in
Yeah.
and they have to chase people away from that waterfront, that waterfront there could be accessible.
Yeah.
So that's we're looking at joint projects with them, and we've got that on.
And we could use some of the dredging material from this dredging to help build that breakwater rather than truck it out to sea and dump it.
Sure. That makes sense. I only ask because of funding and knowing that half that bay and some of the nature of that bay is a result of its former use,
Yeah. So, but good thing the council kind of has the vision beyond just accommodating the boats. And so,
Yeah, that's great.
because we're looking at the whole bay and the benefit on the whole community.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, I think we don't do ourselves any favors right now if we only think serving one population with any improvement. You know, we have to think.
yeah, but if you've been
Multiple.
following our council presentations, and certainly Brian wants to include you in that. We did a business plan, and there's about $40 million of infrastructure improvements we need in the next 10 years. The marina's come to the end of its
Yeah.
life.
I did my chicken scratch, so that I cannot write anything with dry erase markers.
I can't write even anything.
Okay, so this is where you guys are at right now. This is what's come out of our discussions from the last time we met. So inclusive playground, sports facilities, adding some fields, renovating some fields, pickleball, disc golf, replacement of playgrounds, unused parklands opportunities, addressing safety, especially in some of those, communication with the community, prepping for a master plan, and then changes to the board's powers and duties. So we got through this, right? That's going to council. That I think Mikhail's just doing them all at one time. So you guys have already completed that. We are working on one of those with Memorial Stadium for replacement of the two fields as one of the locations.
Mhm.
So when
Working
you
on
talk,
funding for pickleball courts.
when you talk to Brian Hunt about the old Memorial Fields, are they gonna expand the current space with what they're doing, or is that tied into whether or not they move transportation over here?
So what I heard from him was that they are now not planning to move the transportation.
So it would just
Area
be the
over.
actual
The
field
old
space, so
stadium.
it's just one full-size field.
Yes, from what I understand right now. I don't know that they're going to be using that transportation area in the way that they are into the future. There might be opportunity there. But right now, he's focusing mostly on that stadium area for the improvements.
So then Old Memorial would only replace one field.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay.
And then,
I'll have to look at what the footprint is, like size-wise, like as far as like soccer fields, you know.
it's one
It's
full,
one
it's
full
one
size.
full size. I mean, it's a football field because that was the football stadium. It's one full size soccer. That's where soccer played when I was in high school. So one full high school size.
But we don't use it as a full adult soccer field. It's youth fields usually
Oh, no,
turned the other way.
so that would be only for like U10
Right.
fields, but we like, that is actually what we've been using it for, is for the full-size, like
12 and up.
U13 and up
Yeah.
teams to practice on.
Right.
There's just no good grass anywhere. I mean, that grass is the best you're gonna get. There's no good grass.
So, Brian, you know, how this flows. Obviously, the second world goals and priorities are not tied to each one of the major, they're on the left there, that column.
Yeah, so facilities is where you guys spend a lot of the time talking about, right? Sports fields, playgrounds, conservation, can kind of go towards that a little bit. We were talking about master playground. These, yes, everything should tie into one of these categories, right? And so this is your powers and duties. As given to you through code by council. These are your goals. So this is what we're going to be spending our time in board meetings talking about, right? The agenda items should all come back to this. So the last column of this, I won't bother writing it down, was assignments. So who we assign as far as staff and you guys to work on each of these action items. So when we go to the board meetings, everyone kind of returns the reports. Hey, here's what we worked on with design of the inclusive playground. Here's we met with the Navy this week. We met with Sabrina and talked about communication plan. Here's our RFP draft for the master plan, right? So each of these action items are what you will be bringing back to report on with each of these priorities.
Would dog parks go with one of these?
Yeah, I can. So I've talked enough.
Yeah.
Here's where we're at, and you guys can take it away on where you want to fill in blanks, and if you want to tweak anything, this is all on the spreadsheet. I can send this out.
And we didn't get to some of these, like, we never got.
Right, yeah.
Budget.
Yeah, we ended at trees and conservation.
So right now, as far as programming, I am working on staffing. Took that to council in a workshop just to start laying down the groundwork. Hey, we would like to take it's basically $107,000 that Parks was putting into supervisor salaries for public works supervisors. They're now not part of public works, so that $107,000 from the general fund can be put towards other staffing needs. So that makes up half of this ask. The other half is just done by program revenue fees for registered programs. So it's a zero net impact to the general fund budget. We incur the expenses as we incur the revenues, right? We program it out so there is a minimal break-even point with the registrations. If we don't meet that, we cancel the class. We don't incur the staffing expenses because we don't get the revenue. So it's self-sustaining as far as the program is concerned. This goes again to council. David Goldman will just kind of be presenting, getting a little more in the weeds about that business plan that I put together that shows all the numbers so they can understand it. There's kind of some interesting questions that came from council when we presented it. So we want to make sure that they understand how it operates. Every city does this that has a Parks and Recreation Department, trust the process, it works. So that kind of addresses programming. Trees and conservations, we're designated as a Tree City USA. We have a $2 million grant out of the Inflation Reduction Act funding, which is $50 billion. $5 billion. The asks are $100,000 to $50 million. So we're asking for $2 million. This will fund a full-time paid apprenticeship under our arborist, as well as paid internships. So that'll also help with some of the staffing needs for our parks. It also addresses some tree implementation projects along 20 Windjammer Park, Oak Harbor Street, and Barrington, and I think I'm missing one other street that beautifies some of our right of ways, basically. which is another thing that we talked a little bit about. But I didn't even see it on here.
So that's 2 million over a 5-year period.
Right, yeah.
So a lot of programming could be done in that for.
Yeah, and it creates a forestry management plan for the city. So I'll come to that too.
How wide or narrow is the definition of conservation that we're operating under?
It's pretty broad.
That's good.
Like maybe we can plant some trees by the splash park so that you can have some shade.
I would probably put shade structures there just so you don't get leaves infiltrating into all that. But yes, I agree. Some shade would be nice. And we need better seating. I'd like to put a pavilion on the side. We'll talk about all that on Wednesday when we talk about one gym or improvements. Okay, what's missing? What are your priorities? What do we want to be working on over the next 2 years?
I think we should, before we do that, tie some names to some of these. Now, you didn't put the names out.
No, I
Because
can
some
do
that
that
we
if you
didn't
like.
get to, like, we didn't get to funding budget, so there's no name tied to that right now. I'm not sure what other major categories we didn't get to.
I feel like, am I wrong in saying that I thought we started with that? Because I thought that was something that you were interested
I
in,
was,
Tom.
but
Yeah,
I
thought,
mentioned it
but I
at
thought
the
that
end
was kind of at
because-
the very end,
Yeah,
right?
because my name
Yeah.
wasn't anywhere else.
Right. I mean, I think that's probably beneficial. That way we can assign the names so we can actually start meeting in those sub meetings because
Yeah. I think
Without-
we're ready to go.
I think we were, at least on the top 3. I just don't remember.
Yeah, on the
We're
top
ready to go
three,
once
we had
have names
everybody
tied to them.
assigned to them.
Did we want to add dog parks in? Because I know that's been something that we've been discussing a lot.
I think we should.
So Brian, once you do the programming staff, then you gotta look at what programming to do.
Yeah.
Well, unfortunately, that's a egg before the chicken because to, I think, get approved by council, they want to see, or David wants to see a business plan. And so we already have to, and that's what I'm working on right now. Liz and I have put together an annual program plan. So we already have the program selected out that we're going to do. And right now we're just sticking the numbers in.
So you and Liz already have an idea of what the specific programming would be?
Yep. I can
Can
share
you
that with
share
you.
that with us?
Do you want it right now or do you want it at the board meeting?
Well,
Because we probably should wrap up.
Yeah, can you email?
Yeah, can you send,
Yes.
email that and then the spreadsheet where you entered in all of our notes from last time?
Because that would be helpful to know the programming. that you
Okay.
do.
And it's a really nice sheet. So we have it, it lists the age groups, it lists the seasons, it lists kind of what we're currently doing. So Liz put that spreadsheet together. She did a great job.
I think it would be judicious to spend the rest of our time assigning people to the tasks. That way we have that done rather than, because we're halfway, let's get that done so we can say that that's completed.
Yeah.
And then the next time we gather, we can move on from there, or we can start breaking out into those smaller groups.
Yeah,
that do
I was
work.
gonna suggest the same thing, because that would also allow the action officers, as I would call them, to be able to refine this. So they make sure they understand it and push it out to the rest of us, and we say yes.
Yeah.
And so that responsibility isn't the end, it kind of jumps right in now.
I
So
agree
this
with you, Tom.
one, we had Patrick, Eric, and the communication plan, we had Eric. And staff was me, Sabrina. And
I
then,
think that was, do you remember?
I don't think
I
I
think
was,
that was me on the communication.
yeah, it was Carrie, not me.
Yeah, because that's what I had down, and I had
Yeah.
Eric for,
Trees and facilities
yeah,
and
unused
stuff.
and underdeveloped
Yeah.
spaces, was
Yeah.
that one of yours?
Yep.
let's see,
Spaces there.
Eric, oh, vision.
We could drop our bomb, but.
No, yeah,
I'll be
yeah,
quiet
you're
around.
right. Yeah, Eric and Carrie.
I had, because I have it here written down, I had,
Vision
For the communication plan, I just had me, Sabrina, and Mateo. And then for unused opportunities, I have Eric. And then I have Eric and Jana for sports facilities.
Need demand future, okay.
That's what I
So-
remember too. And then you were on inclusive playground.
Yep, I'm on inclusive playgrounds. Tom, we had down for replacement of current playground equipment.
And then at the end, funding and budget, yeah.
And then. Let's see, so that kind of falls in. I'm putting them over. I think I had them over here in a column on, next to action items, but really kind of tie into these a little more. Let's see, so, Brian and Eric with communication. Eric, Tom, and me on the park usage. And location vision planning is Jana, Patrick. No. So all that is Eric and Carrie and me and Tom. I had one, me, Kelly, Patrick, Jenna, and Eric. But it's next to.
I think that was sports.
That was sports facilities and yeah, all that stuff. Might as well just go dog parks, I think.
Yeah.
I mean,
Or do we want to make dog parks separate? Have a different committee, unless you guys want to include that.
It is a different animal.
Yeah.
hey. But it's gonna be sort of similar, probably land use.
Yeah, I would say just
I don't know.
include
Just throw
the
it in
same
there.
group with
I
the
don't know,
dog
it's a lot
parks.
different.
And then,
Park facilities.
yeah.
Right.
And if you already have all of that in the spreadsheet, it's just difficult to see on your small screen. Eric and Tom, were you wanting to figure out who we need to put down for funding and budget, master plan, and rules and policies
Yeah, I
before
think
we
that's-
got out of here?
That was the plan. Yeah, let's get the last three.
And
done.
then if, after you send the spreadsheet to us, if we go through it and like Carrie, since you hand wrote it down, if you could just look over it and see if there's anything that looks off,
Is there-
then we can send them our changes.
This is a question that came up, and it's been a little wonky because we can't, we have to like notify it with. Can we have a shared spreadsheet that people go in and edit and work on together?
Technically, the board doesn't have to comply with open meetings law, so council couldn't do it. But one of the things we learned when we got a complaint that the Marine Advisory Commission was going into executive session. Well, we can't go into it because they don't have to comply with public records. So we can run that by the attorney, but I'm more, I don't know that we need to be quite as transparent on open meetings law in my understanding. I came from a state where the committees were under the same requirements, but in this state, and when I found out, they're not under the same requirements. So we can run it by our attorney, but I think we can kind of be a little bit more open there. The only thing we're complying with, we're not open meetings law, we don't have to comply, but as far as public records request, but somebody wants to get a copy of our spreadsheet that we're working on, hey, have at it.
Let's run it by Hillary. That would really help if, instead of like shooting out updates once in a while, and go through these, like if we just had a sheet that everyone can go in, see the latest and add in or make comments.
Yeah, and then your subcommittees with 2 or 3 people doesn't need to be recorded or public. From a practice point of view, we just like doing the recordings for all our committees for accountability to our citizens we serve.
So carry on to Tom on 2, Eric's on 3. Jana have on just the one.
And then I'm also on the trees one. in
I wasn't there for any
conservation,
of
which I
this,
think,
so-
Eric,
Yeah,
I
it's-
pulled you in on the trees as well.
Yeah, it was me and Jenna and Bob
Yeah.
on trees.
Yes.
Well, categories of-
Go with that.
Oh,
Well,
okay.
or the goal, just the separate goals. Is there anything here?
Yeah, Pick your pleasure. What would you
Well,
like to?
Because I think
Demographics are interesting for me, if that's part of.
That's the park usage.
well, I
Look
know
at
the reason,
demographics, change use.
part of the reason I was suggesting separating out dog parks, I don't know if that might be something you're interested in, since I had a lot of
Passion.
input on that. But that's up to you.
So
I can
where
go in.
we need help
Who likes
is
rules?
with the development of the Parks and Recreation Master Plan. We're good on, just have Eric on communications. It'd be great if we could have one more person.
No,
No, I'm on.
Carrie's on communications, not me. Yeah.
Carrie's the overachiever. Let's look at it. I think we got everything else.
I only had myself down for.
find Carrie's over to her.
Because she's busy on a committee meeting.
I'm up there 3 times, but I had myself in my notes down for communications and inclusive parks. And I think
Yeah.
I'm confused. We've got the communication plan and then below that vision, locations and funding. I don't think I was on vision, locations and funding. I mean, I can be,
Okay,
but I.
so how about we take you off that and it's kind of a demographic park usage.
That'd be great. There's another person in uninclusive.
Does that fall under funding and
If
budgeting?
you're interested,
Yeah, I think that was actually Tom was on that as well, not me.
Well, I don't think,
But I
my
could be wrong.
recollection is that we didn't get to, on the left-hand column, funding, budget, rules and policies, right? Maybe master.
Yeah, the only thing we had with this was, we started with just changing powers and duties, but we need to develop standardized parks rules and regulations. And there's a whole sort of policy things that I have. ready to-
Well, you can put my name under funding and budget, but I'm not sure what that entails.
I think for the most part, right now, that's going at the Parks and Recreation Master Plan, also working on support of the grants we're going after, so helping us with like support letters and things like that. Cool.
Yeah, under rules and processes, I had to deal with revising the camping ordinance for, I had to work with that. I had to do an appeal for a homeless person that was, or a person that was in areas of the parks they shouldn't have been in and have an appeal. So there's a lot of rules already there, helping with policing and helping with some of our vagrant and people that are not utilizing the park the way it should be.
Yeah, we
used.
recently passed one with vaping and a few other.
Yeah, that one, yeah. We do the one that they get kicked out for 60 days out of our parks. And so there's some policing stuff that.
Yeah, we actually had a
Pretty interesting.
lifetime ban too, I think, and
Yeah, we
our
actually,
zones.
yeah, some of those were actually done from we have a police, what's it called, the safety working group that has a couple of council members on it, and they looked at changing policies for parks to kind of deal with some of the issues we have.
So can I get one other person on with Tom? to
I
talk
can
about
do that.
master plan and funding budget?
I'll do it.
And,
I'm pretty interested in the master plan.
and that's one that you guys are all gonna be involved with, but, you know, as we work on the RFP and then bring it back to the board.
They can handle the money. I'll
So
cast
not
vision.
somebody for rules and policies right now.
I don't
No,
want to get involved with the budget or the rules.
I think these kind of all go hand in hand a little bit, but it'd be great if we could break off a couple. I want to make sure that I also don't like over schedule you guys.
Right.
Because I'm paid to have a day worth of meetings, you guys have. volunteers, so.
Well, you know, one of the things that's gonna help develop that master plan, obviously, is public input. You know, in fact, this entity probably more than any entity, right, needs that public input, right? I mean, and one of my suggestions is, you know, that we start thinking about taking our monthly board meetings to the people, right? You know, and start holding those where people are already at. To think that people are gonna come to us, or they're gonna come to City Hall and sit in the little meeting room at the mayor's office, probably isn't as practical as if we start thinking about holding the meeting where there's already people, such as the senior center, for example, right? Being very public, taking up a larger space and having people wonder what those people are in there talking about. And the next thing you know, we may find some people starting to engage us and you know, helping with some of the guidance.
Yeah, I love that. I look for opportunities to get the public into places they've like never had a reason to be. You know, the naming of the park would stick a little example, but you know, first time any of those kids have been in City Hall and
Love to see
a lot
it.
of the parents.
That's just a perfect example of like I said to you, the excitement, the ancillary part of what we're doing brings along seeing those kids and high-fiving them, you know, last night, so.
You can go where they go too. I mean, we did the alternate transportation plan, we did our active transportation plan, we did a outreach there as part of the Holland happenings, and so got a lot of great input on that. So.
Kate, what's your pleasure?
Well,
what else would you like to be involved with? Any
Besides the
community,
vision locations.
doesn't matter if we already have people assigned. It's whatever you have.
Well, I think the inclusive playground would be really interesting.
Yeah.
And if you need somebody on communication,
Yes. Yeah, because right now we just have carrots, so that's great. And then can I get two, maybe to just work with Liz and I on the recreational programming?
I'll do that.
There you go,
Carry
there's
me.
two. That's a lot of excitement. I expect
Okay.
great things.
And maybe one more with rules and policies?
No.
Mom will be all powerful.
You can put me down on that one as well.
Yeah, what's the all powerful thing got dropped? You were in.
I mean,
Yeah,
that's
ask my
a
wife,
lot of
ask my
that.
mom. You don't want me there.
I'm sorry, regular ticket, you're running in the park. That is.
Yeah, but it is important. It's regulating this use of the park. That's what.
And this is actually going to be a really heavy area because we're really efficient.
I was gonna say, I had written down, I don't know if you want it on the actual spreadsheet, but under rules and policies, I jotted down how we talked about board education, bringing people in to educate us. Monthly or periodically.
You did talk about that. We
Yeah.
got up there somehow.
Why
I
don't you
see,
keep
I
that-
see two different things there, you know.
Yeah.
One is the education either in a workshop or in board meetings. Another is I can see real need for education on some of these things that we start delving into, and we're gonna have to get with the appropriate city staff, for example, rules and policies. How does that work? Where are the files? How do I get to them? What are the issues? You know, those kinds of things. And same thing with funding and budget. I'm probably gonna have to hook up with somebody that knows what they're doing.
You know, what, let's keep that as a
So those are
board
just-
meeting agenda item.
Yeah.
When we're planning for the next, you know, what is something that you'd like to hear from an expert on? I've always done that with boards and commissions. We'll have a guest speaker come and just take 15 minutes to say, here's the latest, the greatest trends, or here's what we've seen. We've done this study. I mean, you don't have to reinvent the wheel with a lot of decision making, right? You can learn from.
So, I mean, Brian, you can kind of give us a report from some of the classes you did. That's something.
Right, yeah, so.
What I do when
Liz and
I
went
attend the
to-
work conferences, I give the council kind of a recap. And so you and Liz went to a conference and to kind of provide some of the key.
Well, and some of those
Points
people
back to them.
could be Zoom people, you know, like, for example, you know, I'd like to know how the little itsy bitsy town of Centralia built Penny Park, right? And I don't know if any of you have been to that, but it's for a small town, it is a phenomenal facility. And actually kind of puts us to shame, and be interested to know how they did it.
Where is that?
That's in Joliet.
So Liz and I are going to a recreation summit that the Parks, the Pool Park and Recreation District's trying to put together of different recreational programmers tomorrow at 6 at the fire station. We'll come and return back and report on that to you guys at the meeting.
I'll also be there.
Monday, yeah. Okay, great.
You're stuck with me again, Brian.
Take the air show all day.
And another half.
Any questions, Kate? Kind of being newer to this process?
No, I appreciate the patience. Questions that you already all.
Well, I mean, this is all kind of diving in, and really we're just trying to, I guess, structure how the board kind of moves forward and give us a little bit of direction and roadmap into, okay, here's what we want to work on instead of like chasing 1,000 different things that we all know that the city needs.
It's very reassuring, honestly.
It looks messy up here, but it actually turns out nicely when we get to our agendas.
And I'm just gonna suggest for Tom and Jan on rules and policies, that the city has a whole lot of patchwork rules and policies, including these, right? As Wayne said, we put in 3 or 4 patchworks just in the last year. I would certainly suggest to start with that organically, reading what we already have, right? And don't be afraid to start a little bit from scratch, right? Because I think you're probably gonna find that some of the patchwork is what causes some of the confusion and what our rules and policies really are.
Do we have access to that on the city's website, or is that something you could share?
The ordinance is a parks ordinance that you're welcome to go read and
And they're
become
on there?
very intimate
Okay.
with. So,
I can extrapolate it out and send it
yeah,
to you guys.
there's a whole
That'd be
section
great.
in there on policies and it's codified. So it has some simple citations of like kicking people out and some of the areas there. They're not quite a misdemeanor, they're kind of like an infraction. There's actually a citation that police they do the enforcement for us. So.
And one of the rules we added, for example, is police can now ban you from a park zone. Because the previous law, you can only ban from an individual park, and
Nice.
the person could step across the street, and they had to go ban them from that park. And then we were having to keep track of which individuals were banned from which parks for which periods of time.
So we can't put a reader board up with that information on each park?
So we have signs, if you
Yeah.
go to certain
Scarlet
areas, you
letter.
go through like our walking trail through the Friend Marsh area there, there's signs there that don't go into the vegetation. We have a lot of problem with homelessness in there, so the police can cite people under the Parks Code for going in there. One gentleman that I had to deal with as an appeal decided that he wanted to go into the woods with his camouflage coat on and talk on his cell phone in the middle of our vegetation and kind of disturbing our vegetation. And he got a citation. He appealed his 60-day suspension with him, and I've been hearing examiner also. And I had to hear his appeal, but I think the police are very reasonable in giving him citations the way I upheld them. So, but that was under our, like we were talking about.
But definitely a document that needs to be updated. And there's a lot of other things that are happening that aren't part of it. I had to go searching for do we have policy? There's a policy. It's kind of buried in the resolution I have. Ordinance I have on that. So
That's the patchwork.
yeah, exactly. I'll turn back over to you, Mr. Chair. You have public here. I don't know if you want any comments.
Oh.
Oh, I'm enjoying this all. I think it's a great idea. I like the idea about the marina. You know, that, we need to, I'm just fascinated at how this is all really evolving into this marvelous thing that we've never had. And we're starting to put all these ideas and you know, it's just amazing, makes your brain think about parks, you know, parks. I'm an avid birder, so when you're talking about trails, we don't have that in town. We really don't have that. You go out instead of staying in. You know, and so to put that and make that one of the centerpieces, because birders do bring a lot of revenue and they're really passionate and equipment's expensive, you know, they want to go and see something. So to make like Carver Heights, you're talking about, here we have a chance to make that. And that's, you know, that's a passion, you know, I mean, you know, birders are crazy, but anyway, they like that kind of stuff. And even like the marina, when you're talking about the marina, now, I'll look into it. I used to be a person that boat. I used to do that when I was younger. So for me, that's kind of always been a thing that I'm curious about. Anyway, what we are doing with the marina, what kind of boats, what we have, what we can use with that, you know, what they're doing. So that's me.
Thank you, appreciate those comments. And I hope you guys are excited as you look at this, like, yes, let's get some of this stuff implemented and, you know, give it some, hopefully not at 3 a.m. in the middle of the night, but, you know, give it some thought and come with your ideas and thoughts when we schedule these little committee meetings to work on this stuff and then come to report back to the board. But this is fun, exciting stuff, right? It's, like I said, I'm going to put you guys to work. So thanks everyone for volunteering for each of these areas and all your work on putting this together.
I have a question for you, Brian, before we go. So I was talking to Sandra yesterday about looking into the city possibly purchasing an AED and using it, putting it in one of the lock boxes on the outside of the Fort Nugent bathroom area, and then letting the local leagues have a key to access it. Do I need to bring that up in the meeting or just have a conversation?
Maybe a little both. We have some unused ARPA funding for PPE equipment. And I think we had identified the need for like some first aid kits and like the vehicles and some AEDs strategically placed in areas, especially where there's like athletics going on. When I worked in Provo, we had a kid who passed away during a soccer game or a football or whatever it is, indoor soccer, at our stadium, and something happened and we didn't have an AED on site. Staff tried to.
And that's kind of what happened this past Saturday, is we had an adult that was on the sideline that collapsed. And football has their own AED, but it's inside the snack shack, which is locked and we don't have access to. So just thinking that Little League being out there and then rugby, which is kind of goes with football, but who knows? But just having one that's available. And that,
what makes it hard is how do you make it available without vandalism?
So here's the thing,
walking away with
is that it would
$1,500.
be whoever the director of the event is, or like for soccer, we have our director